Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun project video, we're going to be back over on the Longer Ray5 20 watt diode laser engraver. I've already got the file loaded up into the Lightburn software, if you can see it lit up on that white screen on the laptop behind me, and it is going to be a summertime project. We are officially in summer 2024, and with me living in the South in Burlington, North Carolina, it is of course hot and humid, but I'm always ready for summertime fun. The material we're going to be using is the basic piece of 1/4 inch material I like to pick up. I've already got it cut to the size of my honeycomb spool board, and before we load it into the laser, we will of course go on and pre-sand it because it's harder to sand projects after they come out of the laser. So really cool. And the design we're going to be doing is a Steve Good scroll saw project pattern, and I actually done this project a while back, and I made it as a gift for my mom, and I went to her and I picked this up. And here is the design we are going to be duplicating in today's video. You can see it has some nice artistry in it and nice visual effects, a very artistic style to it, which I like, and it is of course a tropical seahorse. Now I've got to see these beautiful creatures in the Ripley's Aquarium down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina when we go on the family vacations, and they are very unique creatures to watch, but this piece here has a nice visual, and keep in mind it is a scroll saw pattern like I like to do, but you can also drop the same files into a laser program and use them on the laser engraver, once again showing the versatility of scroll saw woodworking patterns. But I made this for my mom for Christmas one year, and then on the back I engraved a nice quote to my mom, you know, thanking her for everything and wishing her a Merry Christmas and much love. But since we are in the heat of summer, I figured it would be appropriate to make this project again and document the process on camera. So all I've got to do right now is get on my safety goggles, turn on the air filtration unit, get the laser turned on, and get our material prepped. So let's go on and do that. And as I said, we're going to be sanding the front and back side of the 1/4 inch material we're going to be using, but then it will be ready to load into the laser itself, and I will lay it on the honeycomb and use a few magnets to make sure it's held in place and won't move around. But then I will frame out the project a few times, making sure I'm maximizing my material, and I'll put the GoPro in and zip up the enclosure and hit start. And you guys know that this is my view when the laser is running out in the workshop. The enclosure has this window, this orange translucent material that I can peer in and safely watch the laser while it's working and keep an eye on it. But this is also why I like to put the GoPro on the inside of the enclosure to give you guys the best possible view while the laser is running. And obviously the footage here is sped up. It took around 1 hour for the laser to cut this project out entirely from start to finish, and it's all laser cutting. There is no engraving on this project. And for those curious of the settings I use, again, I'm using the Lightburn software with this laser, and the settings I dialed in was a speed of 300, power of 88%, 1 pass with air assist on. And again, this is 1/4 inch material and a 20 watt diode laser engraver by Longer. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But while the laser was running, I decided to go on and make the backer board out of a scrap piece of plywood I had, and I used the original one I made to get my measurements from, and I cut it down to size on the Rikon table saw. And then we also sanded this piece front and back side with 180 grit Klingspor woodworking shop sandpaper and the vibrating palm sander here. But after I dusted off the sawdust, I gave it a nice coat of a tropical blue color, and this is Rust-Oleum brand spray paint, and I set it by the door to catch the breeze and dry. And I was also periodically keeping an eye on the laser. Again, it's never a tool you leave unattended, and again, that window allows me to safely peer in while the laser is working. But now we can go back to the internal view here with the GoPro, and you guys can see that the project is almost complete. And even after the laser is done with the project, it'll go back to its home position. I will still leave the laser zipped up in the enclosure for around 5 minutes to make sure all of those harmful fumes are piped out with the dust vent and extracted out of the backside of the workshop. Again, keeping the air quality in the workshop itself as clean as possible. But it is doing what I call the final release cut here. And again, after around 5 minutes, I came and unzipped the enclosure and took the piece out. And please keep in mind, it is very, very fragile. And most of the little pieces fell out. A few of them I had to poke out with an X-Acto knife, but they all came out cleanly. And then I added a splash of color with a light Minwax wood stain, and I wiped off all the excess and hung it on a hook to dry. And after both pieces were completely dry, I glued them together with medium grade CA glue and activator, and I used spring clamps and strips of wood to make sure some of those details in the middle grab the backer board. And I let it cure for around 5 minutes and then came back and removed the clamps. And then I actually got to get on the scroll saw in this laser video. I trimmed everything out here, and this is just basically flush trimming. I could have probably also done this on the table saw, but I wanted to use the scroll saw here. Again, just for basic cuts. And then I wanted to eliminate that charred edge where the laser does that final release cut, so I came over to the belt sander and really gave it a nice flush sanding. But after I was satisfied, it was time to go back to the stain and stain the edges here and the back itself. And once that had dried completely, it was time to take the piece outside in the bright summer sun and give it several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when that dried, the project was complete. And here we have the completed tropical artistic stylized seahorse project, laser cut primarily over on the Longer Ray5 20-watt diode laser engraver, and it finished up amazingly well. I think that Rust-Oleum clear gloss we added at the end really brought out the natural grains and textures of the material we used here today and finished it off in a nice glossy appearance, which is how I like finishing projects that I make out here in the workshop with. But really cool, we even got to use the scroll saw in today's laser video by trimming out and flush trimming that thicker backer board I added to support the delicate 1/4 inch work that we laser cut over on the laser. Again, it was all laser cutting. There was no engraving, as you guys seen in the time-lapse portion of the video. I want to once again thank Steve Good for an amazing scroll saw woodworking pattern. Again, as I said in the beginning, this was meant to be a scroll saw pattern design. I just took Steve's pattern pack, took a screenshot of the pattern and dropped it into the Lightburn software and came up with today's amazing design. And again, I think it really finished up well. And the reason I went to the belt sander after the scroll saw portion was to not only really flush sand everything, but to also eliminate that charred edge that the laser does when it done that final, what I would call over on the scroll saw, the final release cut from the waste wood. And I wanted to eliminate that to hopefully make this project look like one solid uniform piece of wood instead of two pieces of wood that we have glued together, if that makes any sense. But of course, if you wanted to go the scroll saw route with this and cut this out of thicker material, you could of course put resin in it or anything like that. You could even put resin in this. Again, with it being 1/4 inch material, it is very delicate. It took the laser around 1 hour to cut it out completely, and everything came out nice and crisp. I did not leave the laser unattended. I kept checking checking on it periodically while I was making and prepping the backer board again. And this is the second time I've made this amazing and unique design. The first time I made it was for my mom for a Christmas present, and I can now return this one to her where she can hang it up in her room. And now I have one for my collection as well. And I really love the artistic stylized nature of this design, because when you're right up on it, the tropical seahorse emerges, but when you get a little farther away at it, you kind of have to squint and see what's going on. But as you get closer and closer, the seahorse does emerge. Really, really cool. Once again, I feel this project encapsulates summer. We are in summer 2024, and I'm ready for those beach music concerts. Hopefully get a beach trip in, you know, and being around the water. You guys know I love the aquatic lifestyle, the aquatic nature, the beach bum lifestyle. And again, this project here hopefully encapsulates all that in an artistic and stylized manner. And we did add a splash of color with the Minwax wood stain, but you can always go wild with projects like this. You can paint them, you can stain them, you can do whatever you want, whatever you have in your mind's eye. But I hope you guys have liked today's video, and I hope you have actually picked up a tip or tidbit when it comes to using scroll saw woodworking patterns in different mediums in the woodworking and art world. Really, really cool. That's about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to it, and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social medias will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.